Hello again, everyone. This is Randy, your sewing machine man, and what do we have here but one of my favorite sergers, if not my favorite, the Bernina by Bernina, sorry about that, Bernina 334 DS, and this is an awesome machine, and it came in as a customer's machine. I wish I owned it and had it for sale, because I can make one phone call and it would be gone like that, but it's a customer's machine, and I had serviced it for her a couple years back prior to the lockdown, and she got it out, having difficulties with it. What happened initially, she took off sewing, and it happens to the best of us. I've done it myself. She did not pull up the thread tower in the back. It was pushed down, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like a train wreck, and it bends the needles and all that stuff. Gets kind of wacky. So when you get these out to sew them, always make sure you pull the thread stand up. And of course, that's just one of the things on the list. When I say Bernina's sergers won't sew, here's a list of the things that'll keep them from sewing properly. That's what caused this one to not sew properly. But what will keep them from sewing properly, when people call me, my customers, I try to save them money because everybody's busy, everybody's got budgets, so I say check the following items. You know, the this and the that and the this and the that. And here's the items I usually tell them. Number one, they say it won't go, close the front cover. It's got a little safety catch here down below. It's got a little, swing this open, maybe you can see it over here. Yeah, it's got a little safety button right there. That little piston goes and turns the motor on and off. If that little piston isn't pushed, it won't let the motor run. The motor's off. As long as this is open, it's a safety feature, so you don't goof yourself up here with the thing open. So if this is closed, what you do is you give it the gas and you sew. If this is open, it will not sew. Stepping on the pedal, nothing. A lot of times you'll close it and it still won't sew. Oh, now what's going on? Maybe it got bounced around. Maybe this is a jar. Maybe this is a sconce. So you gotta make sure it's lined up properly. And how do you make sure it's not that? Is that rather? You just push it on that button with a tiny screwdriver, your finger, whatever, and if it takes off, then that's the deal. That's not lining up. That's that item. The thread stand is the other, and the thread stand has to be pointed in the right direction. On the front of the thread stand, it says, let's see, set this side to the front. It says right, now let's back it up a little bit. It says right, I'll get it, right there in orange, set this side to the front. So if you don't have it set into the front, it will malfunction. Something as simple as that will cause a malfunction on a serger, believe it or not. Here's another one that happens more often than not. This is the most common thing, is a thread isn't pulled up tightly between the tension disc. You can lay it around there and it'll look correct, and it will not be. You have to get either side of the thread, hold it tightly, and pull it up. You can pull on this side, and if you don't feel resistance, guaranteed it's not between the disc. It's laying on the outside of the disc, behind or in front of the disc. Now this one, the tension is like 4, 5, 5, 4. That's in range. It's going to vary from machine to machine depending on the tension on the spring. But always, every single one of these, pull the thread up tight and make sure it's pulled up nice and snug so you have tension. Otherwise, it looks right, it'll sew lousy. Correct needles, they got to be the right needles. Put them in there, flat side to the back, push them all the way up in and lock them down. 11 to 14, you can't go to a 16. You're not going to be sewing on anything with this serger with a 16 anyhow successfully, because sergers aren't set up to sew on saddles and gunny sacks and, you know, knee pads for football players and stuff like that. It's for garments, a couple layers, shirts, blouses, pajamas, pillowcases, things like that. Not heavy stuff. So size 11, because your looper is set to the needle. If it's smaller than 11, it'll miss the loop. If it's bigger than 14, it'll hit the needle. So 11 to 14 is your range on these things, so that's important too. The needle is critical. Make sure it's a new one out of the pack, inserted correctly, and not too big, not too small. Thread it correctly. Every serger, and I've said this a million times in the last 48 years, every serger I work on is misthreaded. Every single one, because they're so daggone hard to thread and so easy to misthread. Now sometimes you can misthread it and it won't make a malfunction. It'll just make kind of a stitch aberration, like this. That is a real terrible stitch. All you have to do is miss one thread guide and you'll get that stitch right there. This one came in sewing like that. Now, you'll get this if you thread it correctly. And if you thread it incorrectly, like wrapping the thread around the lower looper instead of through the deal, it'll hang on the bottom of the needle plate and cause a drag and knock the timing off. It's that sensitive. So whenever you thread the lower looper, that's the one that always causes you problems because you can't see it under there. You have to trust the threading mechanism. A lot of times it doesn't fall in the slot. So what do you got to do? Razor press the foot up, take these 2 screws, take the needle plate off. You have to see that it's threaded correctly with your eyes. You can't trust that it just somehow jumped in the slot back there. I will never thread a serger without taking the needle plate off. Never, ever, not even once. You always take the needle plate off to thread the lower looper. If you don't, you're guessing. It may work out, it may not. Okay, so we got everything pretty well figured out. So I'm just kind of spoofing on this thing, you know, when you see the, I look at different guys that do stuff with cars and plumbing and stuff, and they always say, try this one trick, or don't buy this car, and all this stuff. When you get on and they go, unless you do this, and then they qualify it. So I was going to do that and see if I get everybody mad at me, but maybe not. So if you want a Bernina to sew properly, do all those things. Of course, that would be with any serger. But if you want to make any serger not work, just forget to thread it correctly. Don't put the needle in right. Just do this, just do that. And then still, you know, check the outdoor temperature and the wind direction and all sorts of things, because sergers are persnickety. I don't sell sergers to people unless they call me and say, I want a Bernina 334 DS. I have one and want another one. And they've already gone through the learning curve, and I know they know what they're talking about. And if I have one of these, I would sell it to them. This one I do not have. It's a customer's, and she's going to get it back tomorrow. But nice serger. Highly recommend these. If you can find one, find it locally. If they have to ship it to you, tell them to pack it properly, because I promise you, when you call me and you're crying, I'll say, gee, I thought I told you not to let them ship it, because if you don't have the original packing, it's not going to work out. So buy it locally. See if you can find a Bernina, something like this, or Bernina, or the equivalent, anything close to this. Send me a text or an email, and I'll see if I can help you find one. But get one of these guys. You'll thank me. They're awesome, awesome sergers. The Bernina 334 DS for Bernina. Thanks.